Hello everyone, it's early, I'm half asleep in Bruges. Archaeologists say that the first settlement here around Bruges appeared during the Iron Age, but as far as we know, the history of the city begins with Julius Caesar, who ordered the construction of a fort here somewhere during the 1st century before Christ. And later the Franks came during the 4th century and occupied the whole territory of modern Belgium, and nothing has particularly changed. But later, during the 9th century, the city could establish trade routes with England and Scandinavia, and so the history of Bruges as a commercial center, a center of trade and exchange of goods began. 1140s/1500s marked the golden age of Bruges. Located at the cross of North Hanseatic and southern routes, the city was overcrowded with traders and sellers from all around Europe. Cloth from France, spices from Portugal, wool from Britain, grain from Normandy, wine from Gascony. It was all here. They traded with Spanish princedom. In 1270, Bruges was the main link of trade with Mediterranean states. The first stock exchange was also opened here in 1309. Unfortunately, in 1500s, due to the reduction of the Swin Channel, the city lost its influence and lost its place as a center of trade to Antwerp, but it was saved, and not due to the lace. All of you know or might suspect somehow, and if you don't know, I'm glad to notify you that Belgium is well known for its beer production. They have around 800 types of beer, but here in Bruges, one of the most interesting places concerning beer is the De Halve Maan pub, if I pronounce it correctly. It's right behind me through that gate. And why is it interesting? Well, because it's one of the only remaining breweries here in this city working, producing beer and giving you some taste of what a real traditional Belgian beer should look like. Despite the launch of lace industry in 17th century, already in 1800s, Bruges was considered the poorest city amongst all the Belgian cities. Yet, by the end of 19th century, it became one of the first touristic places in Belgium, and you can definitely understand why. Just look around. Unfortunately, I'm unable to pronounce the name of this church in Dutch, so I'm just going to tell you that it is a church of Our Lady in Bruges. What it is known for? Well, there are several factors actually why you should visit it. First of all, it is a magnificent example of a perfect mixture of Gothic and Romanesque styles. Just look at that facade. Secondly, in the eastern part of the church, you may see the tombs of Charles the Bold and his daughter Mary of Burgundy, which are quite similar but not enough, because one is built in Gothic style, whereas the other is totally Romanesque. And it's awesome to see similarities in two completely different architectural genres. And finally, this church houses one of the few Michelangelo marble statues outside of Italy. How it happened? Well, actually Michelangelo planned to make this marble statue of Madonna with the child for Siena, but then the merchants came and they paid for it and they bought it, and then in 1514 they donated the statue to their city, to Bruges. Since then, of course, there were many attempts to loot it, namely the one in 1794 by the French revolutionists, and lately in 1944 by the Nazi occupants. And each time the statue was returned. It is still here, so if you come to Bruges, you might see it and enjoy it all. Somehow, by providence or Lord's help, the city suffered no damage during all the world wars. Since 1965, due to restorations and renovations, Bruges boomed as a tourist place. Now it is visited by 2 million tourists on a yearly basis and is under UNESCO patronage. Not bad for a poorest city of one country, is it? The odd thing about Bruges I've found so far is that here are lots of cyclists, and none of them is making any sound when they're riding right behind you. You can just be passing on the pathway, going along the street, and you won't hear until they knock you out. That's very scary, actually. Absolutely. We don't have that in Russia. We have special philo bike ways for them, paths. So yeah, take that into account if you go to Belgium. Cyclists are scary, very scary people. Should be very careful around them. Personally, I like loads of things about Bruges, but there is, however, one tourist attraction which is obligatory for you to visit because it is just that beautiful and important. The tower behind me, the Belfry Tower, is actually one of the oldest buildings here in this city, although it's not an original one. The first tower in Bruges was built in 1240, around that time, and it was a place for holding the local archives, but unfortunately during the fire it was all burnt down to ashes and nothing could be restored. Unfortunately, lots of information about the city's history was lost, but it was rebuilt about 40 years later, around 1280s, and since then it remains. Of course, it was a bit reconstructed, renovated, some additions were made around 15th, 16th centuries, but it's normal because it's evolution and it happens even to the best of us. If you are here, please visit this tower because there are lots of exhibitions and lots of steps to climb, so please do this. So basically that's it, my short overview and report about Bruges, one of the administrative centers here in Belgium. I love this place. I love locals here for their love to read, museums and statues. I love the number of exhibitions here, the museums, the beautiful paintings and sculptures and buildings. I really love architecture, as you might already know. I loved the food. I loved the attitude, the fact that despite being really touristy and crowded with people, it is still very friendly and very appreciative of everyone visiting the place. So if you ever decide to go to Belgium, and even if you've never watched the film in Bruges, please come and watch this place. Travel a bit around, navigate the channels, look at the churches and cathedrals, make some photos because the city is very, very beautiful. And maybe I'll see you around somewhere there because I'm intent on visiting the place once again. But for now, let's say goodbye. Stay tuned, subscribe to this channel because there's gonna be so much more. Bye bye, see ya! The most unfortunate thing about the city is that we have to wait for the bus to Brussels. About 2 hours, I think, yes. So please, the administration of Bruges, Belgium, EU Commissary, United Nations Director General, please do something about it because we need buses to travel. Pretty, please.